My belly is moving. That's how it starts. 6 words that fall like a stone into a quiet room and make ripples that touch everyone in town. The voice is small, breathless, a whisper that thinks a whisper can hide fear. The dispatcher, Nora, presses 2 fingers to the headset as if she could steady the child with her touch alone. From where are you watching this story? Drop a comment below. I'm curious, sweetheart, Nora says, keeping her tone soft and flat like calm water. Tell me your name. A pause. A shiver of air. Leela. How old are you, Lila? 6. Another breath. Almost 7. Nora has learned that the word almost is another way children practice hope. On her screen, the map snaps open, a web of streets. Maplewood Elementary glows like a tiny heartbeat in the center. It's Tuesday, 10:12 a.m. A teacher's voice fills in behind the whisper saying the child is in the nurse's office. Pale, shaking, won't let anyone touch her stomach. She says it's moving, the teacher says, each word like she's afraid to say it wrong. Nora keeps the girl talking. What does it feel like, Lila? It's like a fish inside. Leela swallows. Please don't tell it I said that. Nora won't. She radios the call, and 2 units peel off the grid like geese from a V. Paramedics roll from the station with their routine choreography. Boots, straps, bags, in motion so practiced the body moves before the heart has time to worry. In the classroom, kids whisper about monsters, because kids don't know how to whisper about the other things, the real things, the things that creep in through the mail slot and stay. Nora asks Leila if she can breathe. Leila says yes. Nora asks if anyone has hurt her. Leila says no. Nora asks where she learned to dial 911. My teacher, Leila says. She puts stickers by the phone. For emergencies. Is this an emergency, Leila? I think so. Another whisper. It keeps moving. Sometimes it talks. It says gurgle, gurgle. She tries to show it with her throat and makes a sound like a tiny sink losing a fight with gravity. She is trying to be helpful. She is trying to be brave. By now the nurse's office is a small orbit of worry. Ms. Reyes, the 2nd grade teacher with the cardigan that kids use as a measure of safety, hovers in the doorway. The school secretary, Mr. Kent, has a hand on the doorframe and an eye on the hall. He is counting the seconds until the siren, as if numbers could hold up the ceiling. Lila sits small on the cot. She has taped the corners of her shirt to her leggings like armor, a makeshift way to keep everything where it belongs. Her eyes are wide, the kind of wide that is all pupils, because big feelings pull in as much light as they can. She keeps her palm pressed to the soft hill of her belly. When the nurse asks to look, Lila shakes her head so gently it looks like a leaf shiver. Ms. Reyes kneels. She thinks about last week when the class drew diagrams of the human body. The paper bodies had smiles and red hearts and a scribbly line for the stomach, like a little fishhook. She wonders if that drawing planted a seed or if this fear grew somewhere else, somewhere quiet. The paramedics arrive. Evan and Jules. They move with ordinary voices, because ordinary is medicine. They kneel like the world is best understood from a kid's eye level. Hey, Lola. I'm Evan. That there is Jules. Can I listen to your heart with this cool spaceship? He holds up the stethoscope like a magician revealing a trick. Lila nods. He places the cold metal just off center, and Lila flinches but lets him. He hears a heart. It does what hearts do. But beneath that he hears something else. Not with his ears, with memory. With 100 calls at dinner tables and grocery stores and hallways with scuffed baseboards. He hears the sound of a child scanning faces for answers adults haven't given. Jules takes a pulse. Light, quick. She asks Lila when she ate last. The little hand lifts, tries to count, falters. Lila looks at the ceiling to find time written there. Breakfast, she says. What do you have? Jules asks. Cereal, Lila says, and looks at Ms. Reyes like she's answering a quiz. Evan notes the pale skin, the soft swell above the waistband. The way the belly isn't tight but isn't relaxed either. He presses gently to check for pain, but Lila's hand flies down like a guard dog. Don't, she says, eyes round. It will wake up. The room swallows that sentence. The adults don't move. The clock ticks. Somewhere a locker slams and a child laughs, and the sound doesn't belong here. Nora, back in the call center, stares at the dot on her screen, willing the ambulance icon closer. She remembers her first day on the job, when an older dispatcher taught her the trick of imagining the caller in her own kitchen. "It keeps the voice human," he'd said. She imagines a small girl in a kitchen she cannot see, a chair pushed to the counter to reach the high shelves, a stack of mismatched bowls, a loud refrigerator. She shakes her head like she can clear the picture. She knows she is not supposed to feel this much, but some calls ask you to feel or you fail them. The principal stands in the hallway with two officers who have the good kind of faces for schools, open, slow-moving, like they'd rather talk soccer than write anything down. They ask the teacher about home, who picks Layla up, who signs the permission slips. "Has anyone noticed any bruises?" "No," Ms. Ray says, and it's honest. She's quiet. She's smart. She holds her backpack straps like she's making sure they don't float away. They roll Layla out. The hallway stretches long and bright. Kids peek from classroom doorways, curious and scared. Leela lifts her head, finds Ms. Ray's, and tucks her eyes into that familiar face like a bookmark. Ms. Ray's walks beside the gurney, one hand near the rail, not touching but ready, always ready. In the ambulance, Evan clips the monitor and little green numbers bloom. He asks again about pain. "Not pain," Layla says, "movement." She taps a rhythm along her belly like tapping might teach it a beat. Sometimes it's quiet, then it says hello. She looks at him so seriously that he almost says hello back. Jules swabs Leela's finger for a blood glucose check. The number makes her mouth go thin. She doesn't say it out loud. Not yet. She hears the stomach rumble, a long, hollow growl like a storm crossing a field. Leela flinches at the sound. "See," she whispers, "it's talking." No one laughs. No one says that's just your tummy. They know the difference between explanation and comfort. They know comfort comes first. Back at the school, Ms. Reyes stands in the doorway long after the ambulance pulls away. She feels the empty space where a child was. The clock insists that reading time has already started without her. She tells the class they'll read later. She wishes there was a story about this. A story where a brave thing sounds like a bad thing but isn't. A story where a belly's language is translated for everyone to understand. In the back of the ambulance, Lila's gaze finds the window. Clouds slide by like slow thoughts. Will they take it out? She asks the glass. Evan keeps his answer simple. "We're going to find out what it is," he says, "and then we'll make it better." He isn't lying. He is lighting a small lamp in a very large room. When they reach the hospital, the doors open into Brighton bleach. The gurney clicks. Nurses meet them with sensible shoes and hands that can do 10 things at once. A curtain whispers shut around a square of world. A bracelet goes on Lila's wrist, and her name becomes a barcode, and her barcode becomes care. Jules squeezes Lila's shoulder before she leaves. "You did the bravest thing," she says. "You asked for help." Lila watches her go, then lifts the thin blanket and presses her ear to her own belly like she is trying to hear an old friend through a wall. It answers with a low echo and a twist. In the doorway, a woman in a navy dress appears, her badge catching the light. A social worker. She writes something on a clipboard. She watches for a long second that feels like a page turning. Nora takes off her headset at her desk and rubs her temples. The room is already on to the next call. Brake lights, chest pains, a neighbor who thinks the dog upstairs is crying. But she keeps hearing that line. "My belly is moving," and she cannot shake the feeling that those words are not the storm, they are the forecast. The monitor above Leela's bed gives a soft alarm. The nurse comes. A doctor follows. They glance at the numbers. They exchange the quiet looks that mean something's off. Leela's eyes flutter. You can feel the story in head. And then the curtain opens, as if to introduce the next chapter of this, and the voiceover holds its breath. The tests begin. It starts like a detective story because that's what hospitals are. Rooms full of mysteries wearing wristbands. A social worker named Mara introduces herself with a warm smile that doesn't take up space. The doctor, Dr. Schwang, speaks like he's counting steps on a bridge, steady, cautious. They ask questions in small portions the way you'd feed someone after a long fast. Did you eat breakfast? Yes, Lila says. Liaze. What did you have? Cereal, she repeats. And then adds, with no milk, like she's proud of remembering a detail. Did it hurt when you ate? It moved. Leela looks down. It always moves after, but today it was loud. They listen with their faces, which is a kind of listening most people forget to do. Dr. Shuang orders blood work and an ultrasound, not because he fears a creature in the dark, but because he knows the body can be a bad communicator under stress. The nurse takes a blood pressure that hovers in a range that is not alarming, but is not where he wants it to be. The glucose number from the ambulance earns a repeat test. A small glass of apple juice arrives, and Leela holds it like a precious bead. Mara pulls up a chair. Who is at home with you, Lila? Grandma, Lila says. She's nice. Does Grandma make your food? Yes. What does she make? Leela looks at the ceiling. The ceiling has dots. She counts a few, then gives up. Her voice turns thoughtful, like she's reading from a book only she can see. Sometimes soup, sometimes cereal, sometimes crackers with the red stuff, ketchup. Sometimes I make my own. She says it gently, not as a complaint, but like a fact about Tuesday, as plain as the clock. Mara nods. Do you ever take any medicine at home? Leela hesitates. A tiny pause, like a small bird landing on a branch. Grandma has bottles, she says, not looking at anyone. They rattle. What kind of bottles? White with blue lids. The lids make my hands tired. She rubs her thumb with her fingers as if they can remember the shape through the air. Do you take any? Mara asks, her voice both careful and original. The way you talk when you don't want to scare away the truth. Sometimes, Layla whispers, and the room listens harder. When it hurts or what hurts? My belly, when it talks too much. Lila glances at the apple juice, then to the blanket, and then to the place between, like the answer might be hiding in the fold. I take the small ones, the quiet ones, not the big ones. Those are for when Grandma's ankles sing. Mara doesn't look at the nurse, but the nurse knows to make a note. Quiet ones. Small, blue lids. The nurse has lived enough in this place to know that in 1,000 kitchens, there are bottles that look like answers when no one is looking. Across town, the apartment that holds Grandma also holds a stack of mail on a chair, a window that sticks, and a television that hums a little even when it's off. Edna Grandma is 63 with eyes that always seem to be catching up. The knock at the door makes her jump. The officers have gentle faces here too. They stand on the threshold, like they know thresholds are fragile things. They ask about Lila. Edna nods a lot. She's a good girl, she says, hands fluttering like she's trying to shoo a bad memory away. She gets her own shoes. She knows the cartoons that don't have the yelling. Her words are scattered in a way that suggests they've been traveling alone for a while. Do you have any of her medical records? One officer asks. Edna pulls a drawer that sticks, pulls again, and it comes. Papers, some folded, some in envelopes addressed to names that don't live here anymore. There is a shot record from a clinic 3 years ago. There is a steady gap silence where there should be last year's well visit. We were going to go, Edna says. But then the car, and then my sister in Ohio, and then I got the leg thing with the water. She points at her ankle, which is round as a river stone. In the kitchen, a cereal box, crackers, a jar with the ketchup turned crust at the edges, a fruit bowl with a plastic apple and a real banana learning the word soon. On top of the refrigerator, because that is where the dangerous things go when you're tired, 3 white bottles with blue lids, diuretic, blood pressure, magnesium. The labels have names and directions, and the small black font of trust. The magnesium looks light. The officers write the name of the doctor and the pharmacy on a pad. They do not scold. They do not shake their head. They have seen 40 versions of this kitchen, and the thread that runs through them. Back at the hospital, the ultrasound tech rolls warm gel across Lila's belly. The wand glides. On the screen, grayscale galaxies emerge, loops and shadows. The the intimacy of organs doing their work. Leela squints. Is it a baby? She asks. Not because she knows, but because the world taught her that bellies and babies are cousins in stories. No, sweetie, the text says. That's your tummy, that's your lunch road, that's your food machine. Why does it move? Because it's alive, the text smiles. The text smiles. Because it's a factory, and the workers are busy. Leela thinks about factories from field trips. The belt's moving, the boxes sliding along. She can make sense of that. But later, when the hallway hums and the curtain swishes and the grown-ups murmur near the nurse's station, she will whisper to the blanket, "Then why does it hurt to be busy?" The blanket has no answers. Blankets only know how to hold. Mara meets Edna at the hospital entrance. Edna's left shoe squeaks. She holds her purse like it's a small sleeping animal. Is she okay? She asks before hello. Mara takes a breath that means we're not sure yet, but we're trying. She chooses words that can be stepped on safely. We have some concerns, Mara says, but your being here helps. In the room, Edna looks at Lila like you look at a sunset after rain, like it is both miracle and apology. She's sorry for something she can't fit into a sentence. She smooths Lila's hair with the hand that doesn't shake. We're going to take good care, she says. No more fish in bellies. Dr. Schwang explains. Labs show low iron, low vitamin D, some dehydration. The ultrasound shows no masses, no obstruction. The stool test is pending. He asks about diet, about routines, about the sound of the refrigerator at night. He asks like he's laying down paving stones. Edna answers in loops. Sometimes soup, sometimes cereal. Sometimes Leela forgets to say when she's hungry because she is trying to be a good girl and good girls are quiet. Sometimes Edna forgets to ask because the day steals her breath and gives it back thin. Mara's pen moves. She has no interest in villains. She is interested in gaps. Do you keep medicine out of reach? She asks. And Edna's eyes flick to the air above the refrigerator like a reflex. She can't reach, Edna says. But she has not met the chair that has already met the counter. She has not met a child who can turn a kitchen into a ladder. The nurse brings a clear bag with a small collection of things found in Lila's backpack. A folded napkin with saltine crumbs, a sticker, a crayon broken into 2 hopeful halves, and a white pill in a zip pocket, not a big one, the quiet kind. Edna's face folds into itself. Those are mine, she whispers. Mara doesn't say we know. She says, it's okay, we'll figure this out together. Together is a word that makes the room warmer. And yet the night that follows is long. Leela dozes and startles and dozes again. Her belly gurgles like it's speaking a second language. She is only just learning to translate. Edna stays in the chair with her purse on her lap like it's a seat belt. Ms. Reyes calls the nurse's station twice, just to ask how Leela is, and leaves the kind of message that sounds like a lullaby trying to be respectful of visiting hours. At 3:04 a.m., the lab result that everyone was waiting for pings. Not parasites, not infection, but numbers that line up to spell a word adults don't like to say out loud in the presence of children. Malnutrition, not the kind from movies with dust and distance. The kind from a life of almosts. Almost enough food, almost enough care, almost enough sleep. The kind that makes a belly talk because it is trying to get picked first. At 3:07 a.m., Leela wakes crying. She holds her middle like it is a mystery again. Edna shushes. The nurse sits at the edge of the bed and places a hand, flat as a calm lake, on Lila's side. Feel that? The nurse says. Feel that? The nurse says. That's your body working. It's loud because it's lonely. Leela's tears slow. She listens to her belly with her cheek. It hums a low, insistent song. She looks up at the nurse, then at the social worker sleeping in the chair with her pen still in her hand. Can you make it quiet? Lila asks. Dr. Swang steps into the doorway, the lab report in his palm. He meets Mara's eyes. He meets Edna's. He sees the pill bag on the tray. He sees the child who dialed 3 numbers and asked the world to become safe. We're going to try, he says. The curtain breathes. The monitor blinks. The apple juice glass catches a moon of light on its rim, and somewhere deep inside the simplest, oldest system, Hunger, care, rest. The lever moves. Morning is coming with answers. Morning brings pancakes on a tray. Real butter. Syrup in a little plastic cup like a friendly comet. Lila stares like it's a museum piece. The dietitian, Nina, sits near the bed and talks about forks and bites like they're characters in a story. Small bites, she says. We're going to teach your tummy to trust you again. Trust is a word with a soft underbelly. Lila eats the corner. Her eyes go wide, pleasure and fear in the same breath. Her stomach answers with a ripple. She pauses, waiting for the fish. When it doesn't thrash, only slides, she takes another. Mara returns with a notebook. She has mapped the last month the way an investigator maps the path of a storm. School breakfasts missed when the bus was late. Dinners that were cereal because the microwave tripped the breaker when the lamp was also on. A weekend where Edna's ankles yelled too loud and Leela invented crunch dinner from crackers and an apple that needed kindness. The pills on the fridge that sang when they rattled. The chair, the reaching. Did you ever take the small white ones? Mara asks Lila later, sliding the question across the bed like a toy boat you hope will float. I took two, Lila says. One time. She holds up 2 fingers with ceremonial care. They made the water go away. The water? Nina asks. In my belly, Leela explains, like Grandma's legs. Mara's face doesn't move, though her heart does a thing. She writes without looking at the page, diuretics. For a grown woman's edema, in a 6-year-old body they steal more than water. Did they help? Mara asks. Leela thinks. It got quiet, she says, but then loud again. And I was dizzy. She makes a small spiral motion with her finger. So I took the other kind the next day. The ones with the chalk. The ones Grandma eats when her middle burns. Antacids, magnesium. Little saviors in adult mouths. Big thieves in a child's. Edna covers her face with both hands, the purse finally set aside. I told her they were candy ones, she whispers into the dark cave of her palm. A single sentence that explains too much. So she wouldn't be scared when I took them. I said, Grandma's candy? No one says anything for a long breath. You could set a cup on the silence, and it would not spill. Mara kneels next to Edna's chair. You were trying to make it less scary, she says. The way you say, I see you, and I see your mistake, and I am not going to use it to hurt you. I didn't know, Edna says. I know, Mara answers, and she does. Dr. Shuang sits on the side of the bed. He tells the truth like a steady rain. Your belly is not a monster, he says to Leela. It is a very smart machine that didn't have enough to do. When you don't have enough food, it moves differently. It can feel scary. It can make loud noises. And it can cramp and feel like something is swimming when it's just muscles working and gas moving, like a factory with no boxes. Leela says, a little proud she can finish the metaphor, but the belt still goes. Exactly, he smiled. And the pills you took made your body lose water and salt that it needed to work right. They made your belly feel worse later, even if it felt better for a minute. Leela's ears ring with the word pill. She looks at her hand. They are small, with the half-moons of a child who bites her nails when cartoons yell. She remembers the chair. She remembers the feeling of rescue in the rattle. She remembers wanting to fix herself, so no one had to stop what they were doing. A small medic in 2 big boots, running toward her own siren. Are we in trouble? She asks, and it is a plural that breaks the room a little. No, Mara says fast, because sometimes the emergency is a thought you have to diffuse. We are in a plan. The plan is slow and careful. Refeeding has rules, because even good things have to arrive in the right order. There are electrolytes that must be coaxed back into their lanes. There is a schedule printed in neat columns that looks like a school day, if school were about listening to your stomach's first language. Nina brings broth and toast, then yogurt, then chicken and rice. There are alarms in the schedule labeled snack and story. Ms. Reyes appears with a plastic bag of library books that smell like thumbs and time. She reads from the chair, and her voice makes the curtains softer. Leela laughs once, surprised by her own sound. At noon, a police officer returns, not to the hospital but to the kitchen where the bottles lived. He photographs the top of the fridge and the chair and the stool and the little handprints that say, "Yes, reach happened here." He does not put the prints into a folder with terrible titles. He puts them into the folder called "We Will Fix This." Edna takes a nap in the hospital chair that looks like a chair until you sleep in it. While she sleeps, she dreams of her daughter, Leela's mother, leaving with a duffel bag and a promise to write. The promise was a small boat, and the water was too big. Edna wakes with the shape of that boat still in her hands. She has been holding it for years without notice. Mara talks to a judge on the phone, then to a case manager, then to a woman named Teresa, who has been a foster parent for 10 years, and is the kind of person who keeps a spare toothbrush, like other people keep spare light bulbs. The plan is not to take Lila away and leave a pit. The plan is to build a bridge wide enough for 2 people to walk across and not fall off. When Lila sleeps that afternoon, her belly sighs instead of screams. The machine hums, the IV drips a steady kindness. On the bedside table, someone sets a knitted bear with one ear slightly smaller than the other. It is perfect. Imperfect things always fit better. At dusk, Leela wakes and asks, "Is it still moving?" Nina smiles. "It is, and that's good, but scary. We'll teach you the difference." How? By listening, by feeding, by talking when it talks. Leela nods like she's in a club now. She presses her palm to the place that called 911 for help, before the brain could put a name to it. The room is dim and crisp, like a winter morning in a movie. The curtain lifts as the air conditioner kicks on, and for a second it looks like a stage cue. Mara stands. "Tomorrow," she says, "we'll talk about where you go when you leave here. You won't be alone." The word "alone" hits with a small old echo. Lila curls her fingers into the blanket like roots. Dr. Swang lingers in the doorway. "We'll keep you tonight," he says. "We're watching the numbers." He taps the chart with the ease of a man who trusts math and stories equally. And then the new fear drifts in, the kind that steals in when the big fear takes a nap. Where will she sleep that isn't a chair? Who will be there when the belly talks at midnight? Who will know how to make pancakes into courage? In the hallway, Nina and Mara talk about Teresa, about Edna, about a thing called kinship care, and another thing called support plans. They say "we" a lot. Not you, not she, we, the prettiest pronoun in the language of rescue. In the bed, Lila closes her eyes and hears the echo of her own voice from yesterday. "My belly is moving." And for the first time, the words don't sound like a ghost story. They sound like a map. Still, outside the window, a courthouse light burns on into the evening. Papers are printing. Phones are ringing. There is a chair being pulled out at a kitchen table where decisions come dressed as laws. Tomorrow is a courtroom, and in courtrooms bellies learn new languages. The hospital has 2 speeds, rush and hush. Between them are the hours where bond forms like frost on a windshield, thin at first, then sudden, then beautiful when you lean in. Teresa arrives with a tote bag full of some things that help. Socks with grippy bottoms, a toothbrush with a purple handle, a book about a dog who is afraid of thunder but learns to dance with it. She meets Edna in the hallway first. "I'm Teresa," she says, and she says it like I'm not here to take your place. "I'm here to build a place beside you." Edna nods, eyes glossy, purse clutched like a raft. "I can't do it right," she whispers. Not to Teresa, not to anyone, just to the air that caught the words and didn't drop them. Teresa touches Edna's forearm. "We're going to try different, not perfect," she says. Different is kinder. That night, Teresa reads to Lila in the half-dark. The dog in the book hides under a bed during storms. Lila laughs at the picture of the tail sticking out. "Sometimes I go under the table," she confesses. "When it moves, good spot," Teresa says. Tables are brave. At midnight, the belly talks, it does not shout. It grumbles like a train inside a tunnel. Leela startles. Teresa puts her hand. This is the part near the side, not on top, where it can be felt without being trapped. "That sound is hunger and healing arguing," Teresa says. "They'll become friends, how do you know?" "I had a son who was born early," Teresa says. He had to learn to be hungry in a world that wanted to watch him be small. We had to teach his belly the shape of enough. Where is he now? College, Teresa says, smiling. He calls when the laundry talks. The second night brings a setback. Refeeding is a finicky dance. Layla's electrolytes wobble. She gets a headache like a tiny hammer trying to knock a hole in the afternoon. The beep on the monitor turns from background to foreground. Dr. Huang adjusts the drip. Nina changes the snack time. The belly protests. It is not sure it trusts this choreography yet. Teresa stays. She hums a song that has no words. Ms. Reyes stops by after school with a stack of get-well cards that look like wildflowers. A boy named Malik has drawn a superhero with a giant fork fighting a villain named Hunger. The Y ran away because kids spell truth better than vowels. The community starts to arrive in little ways. The pastor from the church down the street, not Edna's church, just a church in the neighborhood, brings a casserole with a note that says, "For when you go home, wherever home is." The school nurse handles the flood of emails from parents who heard whispers and want to help without asking for the story. Someone starts a pantry at the school called the Lunch Road because the ultrasound tech told one mom and the mom told another. And the nickname stuck the way nicknames do when they feel like a wink instead of a label. Edna attends a class at the community center called Caregiving 101. She hates the title. She loves the content. A woman named Bree shows her how to make a chart for pills and hang it on the fridge. Bree shows her how to hide the pills where chairs can't help. Bree shows her how to ask for help without apologizing so much that the ask dies before it reaches the ear that could say yes. At the hospital, Leela tries peanut butter on toast and finds religion. She asks if she can have it for breakfast tomorrow and lunch and maybe dinner because her belly clapped. Nina smiles. "One step at a time," she says, and scribbles a heart next to peanut butter on the plan like a tiny blessing. One afternoon the storm returns. Not a real storm. A memory. A TV down the hall plays a show where someone shouts. Lila freezes. Her belly tightens. The room shrinks. Teresa turns the TV off and the room grows back. But that's not what pulls Leela out of the past. What pulls her out is Teresa's hand sliding toward hers on the blanket and stopping halfway. "I'll hold your hand if you want," Teresa says. "If you don't, we can breathe near each other." Leela looks at the space between the hands. It is a small ocean. She crosses it. Her fingers fit like puzzle pieces designed in a factory that knows about bellies. Teresa squeezes once. One squeeze says, "I'm here." 2 squeezes say you're safe. 3 squeezes say we can do hard things quietly. When the court date arrives, the hospital smells like lemon and every clock runs a little fast. Mara wears a navy blazer because navy looks like steady. Edna wears a good shirt. Teresa wears the face you wear when you want to look like a bridge with railings. The judge listens. He has the kind of hair that makes you think about snow. He asks Mara to explain the plan. Mara says the words temporary guardianship and kinship visitation and safety plan, and somehow she makes them sound like chairs pulled up to a table instead of locks on a door. "Miss Edna," the judge says, and his voice is kind without being sugar. "This isn't a punishment, it's a scaffold. We're going to build around you, not away from you." Edna nods. "I love her," she says, "and it's an oath." "I can hear that," the judge says. He signs a paper that turns intentions into instruction. It says Lila will go home with Teresa for now, to a house where the pantry is a bright, ordinary thing, and the top of the fridge is just the top of the fridge. It says Edna will see Lila many times each week, and they will learn to cook together with breeze charts like sheet music on the counter. It says Ms. Reyes will be permitted to bring homework and hugs, because the court has lately learned that teachers are medicine too. They leave the courtroom into a sun that has decided to do its job with extra effort. On the steps, the belly moves. Leela pauses. She presses her hand. Teresa says, "Hungry?" Lila nods. "What does it feel like?" Teresa asks. "Like talking." "What is it saying?" Lila listens. It says, "Please." Teresa smiles. Then let's answer, the next weeks are the kind of montage you wish life did more often. The breakfast table with a calendar on the wall and a bowl of fruit under the window. A grocery trip where the clerk gives Lila a sticker that says, "Help her because she puts the cans on the conveyor belt with the label facing out." A doctor visit where the scale moves in the right direction the way a prayer does when it finally finds the door. A night where the belly is quiet for so long that Leela wakes up because she misses it and then laughs because she missed it. Setbacks still try to be the boss. There is a day when a stomach bug comes to class and 3 kids go home and Leela thinks the fish has returned. Nina's voice on the phone talks her through it. Sips rest. A story about the dog who dances in thunder. There is a day when Edna forgets to eat because the bus was late and the pharmacy line was long and her ankles had an opinion. She remembers at dinner when Leela asks, "What did you have for lunch?" They eat cheese sandwiches at the table together. They draw a star on the chart. The star is wonky, it is perfect. The community keeps growing around them like ivy on a fence, not to hide but to hold. A neighbor named Lewis fixes Edna's fridge door so it seals. The school starts sending home weekend food bags in a way that looks like a school thing and not a charity thing. The church pantry works out a system where no one has to say, "I can't" in a loud voice. The officer who took the photos drops by once to deliver a child seat that fits better. He leaves without expecting a picture. One night, Teresa lifts Lila onto the counter to stir a pot of soup. "It's like a factory," Lila says, grinning, and Teresa laughs. Everything in order, workers happy, no monsters. The belly murmurs in approval. But the true test is still ahead. A follow-up at the courthouse. Numbers on a page that pretend they are the whole story. People in chairs who pretend the chairs make them part of it. A judge who reads, then looks up to see if the eyes in the room match the math. On the way there, the clouds gather. The radio whisper sings something about a home being wherever your people are. Leela watches the wipers draw lines on the glass like the world is practicing cursive. In the elevator up to the courtroom, Edna squeezes Lila's hand once. Teresa squeezes the other hand twice. Leela squeezes back a rhythm that means we are a tripod. The doors open with a little theater creak. This is where a story that started at a phone ends with a gavel turning into a spoon. The judge reviews the plan. He reads numbers that wear little suits. Weight, glucose, iron. They stand in a line and look respectable. He reads reports where teachers say engaged and nurses say stable and neighbors say present. He reads a note from Ms. Reyes that says, "Leela read aloud to the class yesterday. During snack, she raised her hand and said, 'My belly says please,' and then laughed, and then said, 'It also says thank you.'" The judge smiles at that. He adjusts his glasses, which is what judges do when they're about to make a choice that touches a lot of chairs at one table. "I am approving continued guardianship with Teresa," he says, "and liberal structured visitation with Miss Edna, including overnights when the care plan is followed." He says it like he's laying a bridge across a river and naming it after hope. Edna exhales a sound like a balloon letting go of old air. Teresa nods, taking the weight and shaping it into something she can carry. Lila looks at both of them as if they are 2 different doors that both open to the same room. Outside on the steps, the rain has stopped. Patches of blue show up like shy guests at a party. Leela puts a hand on her stomach. It answers with a small roll. She laughs, not the nervous kind, the one that sounds like a new bike on a new sidewalk. "What's it saying?" Edna asks. "Hurry, please." Leela answers. It saw the sandwich in the car. They eat in the front seat with napkins that a fast food place calls serviettes, because someone in marketing had a poet for a grandma. Leela licks peanut butter from her thumb and looks at the sky. Like the sky is a screen and the credits are about to roll. Healing is not a straight line. It's a plate spinning act. Lila learns to say, "I feel hungry," before the belly has to shout. She learns to say, "I feel worried," before the belly translates it into knots. Teresa learns that Lila likes her apples with the peel on, because the peel is armor and tastes like squeak. Edna learns to put the pills not just out of reach, but out of sight and out of habit. She learns that asking the pharmacist to use a non-childproof lid is a no, and asking for easy open arthritis caps with the lock is a yes, and that there is a bridge between independence and safety, and it is called this small plastic thing. Bree gave me that clips to the bottle like a hug. Ms. Reyes learns that Lila is far funnier than anyone realized, because fear makes shy people seem quiet when really they are quietly collecting jokes. She tells a story to the class about a girl who mistook her belly's voice for a monster, and she tells it without names. And when she finishes, the class claps, like it's a magic trick where nothing disappeared. The town learns something too. It learns that emergencies sometimes whisper before they scream. It learns that a pantry isn't charity, it's infrastructure. It learns that when a child calls 911 with a phrase that could be a ghost story, you send more than an ambulance, you send a chorus. On a Saturday months later, the community gathers in the school gym for something called the Lunch Road Fair. There are booths. There is a dentist teaching kids how to brush with a timer app that sounds like a drum. There is a table where Bree helps caregivers make pill charts. But the sign says kitchen maps because names matter. There is a stage where Miss Reyes thanks the TA and the grocer and the officer with the gentle face. There is a corner where Teresa and Edna sit together and argue about whether cilantro tastes like soap, and they laugh like the family they're practicing to be. Leela stands at the smoothie table with a paper cup of something purple. She presses her palm to her belly, not because it hurts, but to say hello to a friend. Mara passes by with a clipboard she doesn't consult as much as she used to. "Does it still move?" Mara asks, smiling. "Yeah," Lila says, "but now I know what it says." "What's that?" "It says, feed me." "It says I'm okay." Sometimes it says, "I'm nervous," and then I breathe with it. She demonstrates a slow inhale that fills her small frame with a kind of authority that doesn't need a badge. What does it say right now, Leela thinks? It says, "Save room for cake." They both laugh. You can feel the town laughing with them in the bloodstream of the building. That night at Teresa's table, the three of them eat spaghetti. After, Teresa gives Leela a gift, a small stethoscope, purple, the toy kind with a real hum. "For when you want to listen," she says. "To what?" "To what's already telling the truth." Lila lifts her shirt and places the bell over her belly. The sound is not a roar. It's a shuffle and a hush and a rhythm that could be a train or a poem, or the ocean at night pretending it's small. She closes her eyes. "What do you hear?" Edna asks, soft as steam. "I hear. Me," Lila says. "Oh," Edna breathes, and it is the kind of oh that lets go of 1,000 almosts. The narrator, you can hear it now, can't you, leans into the microphone the way nurses lean into whispers. The camera in your mind pulls back slow. The lights in the kitchen look like stars that chose a ceiling to practice under. The fork on the table catches one and offers it to anyone looking. Listen again to the opening line, the line that sounded like a horror story. "My belly is moving." We thought we knew what it meant. We thought it might be something cursed. We thought it might be a secret you couldn't say out loud in a school hallway. But here is what it really meant. It meant a child's body was trying to get help with the language it had. It meant hunger speaking louder than shame. It meant a factory still running without shipments, because that's what factories do when they believe the truck will come. It meant a girl who dialed 3 numbers and told the world the truest sentence she could find. And the world for once found the right sentence back. Not "what have you done," not "how could you." Not "be quiet," it said, "we hear you." It said, "we'll feed you." It said, "stay." So remember this when the next whisper arrives tangled in fear. Remember this when the next story opens with a line that makes your blood go cold. The underbelly of terror is often a call for tenderness. The monster is often a misheard message. The ghost is often a need with bad reception. Love is translation. Healing is a plan. Family is whoever shows up with a spoon and a calendar and a steady hand. And the next time you hear a child say, "My belly is moving," you will know what it really means. It means, I am alive and I need you. It means, Please answer. It means, and this is the line you can carry forward the way people carry rings and keys and prayers. What I mistook for a creature inside me was my body crying for help, and now the only thing moving in there is the quiet proof that I am cared for.